The following presentation on artificial light output analysis is presented by Robert Stanley of the California Department of Fish and Wildlife and Sabrina Dunn of the California Department of Transportation. The goal of this presentation is to provide environmental planners and professionals with an analytical framework to track and measure artificial light output on a project with single or multiple light sources. The night is slowly disappearing, in part due to the readily available and affordable LED lighting technology. As we can see on this graph, the downside of LED technology is that when compared to other types of light sources, LEDs are high into the blue wavelength and mimic that of natural sunlight. But LEDs do have their advantages. They utilize less electricity and as a result generate less greenhouse gas emissions. LEDs can also be programmed to have a more environmentally friendly wavelength output into the warm white and yellow wavelengths in and around 2700 Kelvin.
There are many studies on the negative effects that light pollution can have on human health and nocturnal wildlife species. Human exposure to blue light or nighttime light pollution can reduce melatonin production, which comes with a series of negative health effects. For wildlife, studies have shown that certain nocturnal species will either avoid or be attracted to artificially lit areas, which can alter circadian rhythms and behaviors as well as increase rates of roadway mortality. Light pollution is defined as the presence or use of inappropriate or excessive artificial light. Components of light pollution include glare, sky glow, light trespass, and clutter. Approximately 80% of the world's population and 99% of the US population lives under sky glow or light polluted skies.
Environmental planners and professionals should utilize the SI-derived unit of illuminance known as lux when analyzing and tracking potential artificial light outputs on a project. The lux scale can also be utilized to develop isolux diagrams and isolines. These diagrams can be put into map form, and the isolines can be used similar to what elevation lines in a topographical map are used as. The isolines track the changes in illuminance over the area of the land and can be important when trying to avoid sensitive habitats and other areas with unique resources. The current slide notes a list of potential equipment necessary to complete the line transect analysis method for artificial light output analysis. The line transect method should employ predetermined survey transects at predetermined distances where light illuminance is recorded at predetermined intervals from the light source. Datasheets should also be utilized with the proper information recorded, noting cardinal directions traveled, time of day, temperature, and any other pertinent information from the project site. There is emerging drone and remote sensing equipment technology that may be able to make the process more effective and efficient over large-scale linear transportation projects. GPS units and GIS mapping software can also be used in conjunction with the on-foot line transect surveys to map out data collected once surveys are complete. The analysis for artificial light output at a given project should be divided into three specific parts. Part 1 is to develop an environmental baseline of the existing light output conditions. Part 2 is to develop a future proposed light output condition. Part 3 is to develop a system that tracks and vets the estimations from Part 2 using on-foot personnel and the line transect methodology as previously described. The baseline site analysis can be conducted using the line transect method, and it can also be conducted utilizing remote imaging technology, such as databases that track light pollution, websites that provide maps that also track light pollution and artificial light output over the entire Earth. This information can also be vetted in the field if obtained from remote imaging by utilizing the light survey line transect method in the field.
When evaluating a project site, we ask the following questions. What is the environmental setting? What is the topography? Are there barriers or opportunities for light trespass? What light regimen is currently present at the proposed location? If there is light already present, what amounts, types, and sources are there? What lighting will be installed? What are the design specifications, and what kind of bulbs or emitters will be used? What will the lumen and Kelvin output be? What are the implications of the proposed lighting? What is the surface area that will be exposed? And who are the receptors, both human and wildlife? And how will they be affected?
This slide represents a proposed future artificial light output condition estimation. This map was developed by contacting the light device manufacturer and getting an isoline layer file that can be input into ArcGIS and CAD programs to show how the proposed light source would emit light over the surface area of the land within the project limits. The post-construction analysis methods for artificial light output should be conducted in the same manner that the pre-project baseline conditions were evaluated, using the light line transect survey methods. Once the pre-project, proposed future project, and post-construction project artificial light output analyses have been completed, they can then be cross-analyzed against one another. This slide displays a map that is cross-analyzing the existing and proposed lighting conditions. It would be very simple to overlay the post-project construction conditions for lighting and determine if there has been a significant increase, decrease, or if light output has stayed relatively the same.
If it is determined that a project has resulted in increased light output or excessive light spillage into areas outside the project limits, there are multiple avoidance and minimization measures that can be employed. Some examples include light shielding, which focuses light onto intended areas of illumination, mast height and arm adjustments, which can reduce projected light surface area, and warmer temperature light outputs around 2700 Kelvin. Furthermore, increased use of retroreflective surfaces can reduce the need to install additional artificial light sources.